This is the Rita Cosby Show.
How do police do their job? I don't know how they do it. I'm so in awe of police officers when they have so many things going on and so many things working against them. And I want to hear from you guys tonight because I sit there and I'm marveled when you're dealing with all these crazy different policies that are happening. And you look at all the liberal policies in so many different cities across America. And now you're saying it's not easy being a cop. I know so many different police officers, and I always thank them when I see them and say, thank you so much for all you do. And I often say, hey, you probably hear that a lot. And they're like, no, we actually don't hear it that often. And how sad is that? Just to say thank you, and we appreciate you. And now their jobs have gotten a whole lot tougher in many Democratic cities across the country. And specifically, when you think about already how tough it is with skyrocketing crime, with these defund the police movements, where even in cities where they haven't defunded, a lot of places they haven't replaced those that have been retiring and resigning at record rates, which is like in New York and other cities. It is sadly a crisis where there's not enough cops, and a lot of people just don't want to be it. It's too risky. They feel like they can't do their job. They're arresting people and they're back out on the streets right afterwards because soft on crime DAs or the public isn't supporting them enough. And by the way, in the second hour of the show tonight, we're going to be talking also a lot about soft on crime DAs because there are a lot of them. And I'm really happy that the guy in San Francisco, Chesa Boudin, got the boot. Boutine, we'll call him, right? Because he got the boot. And I'm so glad that he got the boot because, boy, he was leading one of the most liberal cities in the country down into the toilet even further. And Gascon now, there is a major effort to go after George Gascon. I hope he's next because if you look at some of the policies of that guy, he is all over the place. And he really has put so many different people in jeopardy, in peril, and a lot of his policies. And he won't even admit to it. In fact, he did a press conference this week, and the guy who he basically gave an easy pass to, turns out that he kills 2 El Monte, California police officers. And so Gascon, as opposed to saying, maybe this is an epiphany, maybe this is an issue, maybe it's that, he comes out and said, oh, the suspect who had a huge rap sheet, and who knows why he was even out on the streets, basically, he comes out and says, oh, he had no violence in his background. Are you kidding me? The guy had so many different issues in his background and never should have been out. And now the families of those police officers are speaking out and saying enough, that the reason that guy was out was because of George Gascon's soft on crime policies, and they want to see him recalled or impeached. And also, that's also the case in Philadelphia, where a guy named Larry Krasner, many people believe he has done the exact same thing. And there was a huge press conference that took place this week of family members that were just pleading and basically saying it is time to remove these soft on crime DAs. So later on in the show, we're also going to be talking to Andrew Giuliani, who is running for New York governor on the GOP side. And Andrew has said, he just said recently in a press conference that if he gets elected, one of the first things he'll do is get rid of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. I say, bravo, bravo, bravo. And I thought that was really powerful because one of the other ones, one of the other candidates was like, oh, I'm not really sure. Another one, Lee Zeldin, said that he would get rid of Bragg. And I'm happy to hear that there is this resounding voice of getting rid of these soft on crime DAs. And I hope they take a cue out of what happened in San Francisco because that was outrageous. Meantime, we are talking about how tough it is to be a cop. And I want to hear your thoughts tonight, particularly on the mission that cops have and some stunning new information. First off, let's talk about New York, because in New York City, guess what? An NYPD transit cop was assaulted on the job yesterday on the first full day of officers patrolled who are doing basically solo patrols now. They were basically told, we're going to start with the solo patrol procedure. And on the first full day of officers being solo, being alone in the city's subway stations, and that's a pretty risky job these days. I mean, you think about how many people are there and how dangerous it's become and how ambitious and how horrible and brazen some of these cops are. Remember the cases are recently? Think about the case recently with that guy who was pushing and then started opening fire and shoots 10 people on a subway. And you look at the background of the guy, he was a massive, massive repeat offender over and over again. And Eric Adams has said, well, the way to really distribute cops and make sure that they can really be used enough is to have them go on solo patrols. Now, the police union, so many people in the police union and those who are on the patrol say this is not a smart thing to do for many reasons. First off, if you have one officer and you got another one there, the other one can kind of be watching the other person's back. They can make sure that that officer is not attacked, is not assaulted, something doesn't happen to him, somebody doesn't try to like grab his gun, do something, whatever the case is. You know, they're really in a vulnerable position if they are by themselves. And they spoke out as soon as they said, what are you doing? What are you talking about this procedure? And sure enough, on the first day of solo patrol, this is basically what happened. Let me tell you, the first guy goes out, this guy, and the officer, there he is. He's at the Pennsylvania station in Brooklyn. He's attacked around 6:45 p.m. at night by a 24-year-old suspect who, guess what? What a surprise, has a history of run-ins with cops. And the incident unfolded when the officer spotted the suspect smoking a cigarette on the southbound platform. And he told him to put out the cigarette. The suspect threw himself down the platform staircase. The officer went to offer the suspect help, but he allegedly grabbed the officer and tried to grab the officer and drag him down the rest of the staircase. I mean, and then he tried to grab the officer's gun several times. This is exactly why you do not have officers patrolling by themselves, especially in an area like that. Are you kidding me? Luckily, this suspect was subdued. He was taken into custody. He was hit with several charges, including assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. And if you look, he's got a huge rap sheet of going after police officers in the past. I mean, on May 11th, this guy was accused of assaulting a police officer when he allegedly lunged at the officer and struck him with a closed fist several times on the shoulder. He was charged with second-degree assault, resisting arrest, as well as lesser charges. On the same day, he was charged in connection to a domestic incident. It wasn't enough that he had one on one day. He had to go for another one. I mean, this is so crazy. And he was given non-monetary release on both arrests on May 16th. I mean, this is exactly why you throw the book at criminals. And this is exactly why you do not have officers patrolling alone. They got to have somebody who can look at their back. They can watch what's going on. And this, to me, is so crazy. And Eric Adams seems intent on this program. Take a listen. Here is where he basically laid it out and tried to make the case for single police patrols.
The police commissioner and I are going to be announcing in the next few days a new deployment of our transit police personnel. That is playing a major role in people feeling comfortable in riding the subway system. We're getting ready to announce a next layer of our subway safety plan, moving away from the double patrols that cut our police forces in half and going back to single patrol to have the omnipresence that's needed on our trains and stations. And so we are going to continue to modify until we bring back that level of confidence that New Yorkers need.
And then Eric Adams also explained why he just felt like there really wasn't a need. He's trying to get around the fact that basically what you got to do is you got to hire more cops. You got to have cops that are filling in the ones that are resigning and wanting to leave at record pace. And instead, he's just trying to distribute them and stretch them even thinner and now put them in a very dangerous situation by being by yourself with a bunch of nut jobs half the time on these subway stations? There have been so many crimes on the subways, not just in New York, but around the country. What city in America would have somebody just there, especially an urban city with a very high escalating crime rate? Where would you ever consider having an officer be by himself?